My name is Austin, and I'm a vault man, and my task was setting up the committal service gravesites in cemeteries across Illinois and Indiana. My company manufactures and installs Wilbert, Trigard, and Clark Burial Vaults. This vault is a Wilbert Citadel, the same vault that I used when I laid my grandpa to rest last summer. While a lot of people aren't familiar with this industry in any way, I've created a channel to show the background work that goes into the funeral industry that's usually not seen by the families. In East Central Illinois and West Central Indiana, the majority of cemeteries require a grave liner or a burial vault of some kind. Both burial vaults and grave liners prevent the ground above the casket from settling as the casket deteriorates. It's a requirement to help maintain the grounds. Using a burial vault or a grave liner means that as the casket deteriorates, the ground doesn't settle, causing the grave to have to be refilled and reseeded routinely throughout the years. Over the course of 10 years, I've set over 3,000 committal services and cremation burials in cemeteries in about a 150-mile radius. I'm also the owner and only employee of Ileana Headstone Care, my company that cleans headstones across Illinois and Indiana and donates the cleanings for veteran headstones to a tune of around 250 to 400 headstones a year. After being a vault man for this long, I've figured out the best ways to set a committal service to where it's safe and a clean setup, but also in a quick manner, which leaves me time before the funeral arrives to donate the headstone cleanings for veterans in whichever cemetery I'm working, after receiving permission from the cemetery. One of my goals for this channel is to show other vault men different tips and tricks and ways that we set up so that more committal services across the United States and in Canada and anywhere else in the world, so that families can have a better committal service experience. Where the burial vault and the grave is set up in a safe manner, the tents can be set up in a way that blocks the families from the elements, and more of a sense of professionalism from the burial vault community. We are a manual labor job, and at times it's a very dirty job as well. But in my opinion, we should hold ourselves more to the likes of a funeral director rather than a manual labor worker when the family is present. And by that, I simply just mean changing into clean clothes rather than being covered in mud, and keeping in mind that this isn't just a manual labor job. Someone has passed away, and there's a family present that is grieving. It's our responsibility to be an extension of the funeral home while the family is present, and make sure that that family is treated with respect and care for their family's graveside service. The setup that you'll see in this video is a Wilbert Citadel Ovation, and the Ovation is a patent by Wilbert Burial Vault Company. Many different burial vault companies set what's referred to as the Wilbert Way, or swinging a vault, where the base is displayed over the grave and the lid is pushed back away from the family. But only Wilbert Burial Vaults can be displayed in the Ovation manner, where bent lid rails are used that are angled down towards the family. And when I say bent, they are manufactured in that manner so that there is an angle to the rail and the lid is pushed down on these rails, angled down towards the family, so that the cover of the burial vault can be viewed easily in front of the chairs under the table. Towards the end of this committal service setup process, we'll also see what's referred to as the interment of the vault. This is the process of lowering the casket and sealing the burial vault before placing the vault to the bottom of the grave. I don't speak for every vault company and every funeral home, but in our area, it is absolutely the family's choice as to what happens at the conclusion of a committal service. Families are not required to leave the cemetery before the interment process begins. I've heard many stories from people across my channels over the years where they are told that no work will be done while the family is present. In my opinion, the lowering of the casket, sealing of the vault, and even backfilling the grave can be a pivotal point in anyone's committal service experience when they are laying their family's loved one to rest. To me and to our company, it is unconscionable to deny the family that right to watch their loved one be laid to rest. That being said, it is the family's choice, and many families do conclude the graveside and move on to the luncheon or the repast after the graveside is concluded, and the sealing and lowering of the burial vault is left to the funeral director and I. In many states, it's required by law that a funeral director be present until the vault is sealed or until the vault is sealed and lowered. With that being said, I hope you find interest in this video where we set a Wilbert Citadel customized by the family of their choice of unique prints for the top of the vault. With these vaults, there is almost no limit to how we may customize the carapace, which is the top of the lid, to any different sports teams, any different passions, religious symbols. Basically anything the family can think of, we can create in show and have out in the cemetery with bookmarks to match. I know some people don't understand the purpose of creating artwork to be placed on top of a burial vault that is eventually backfilled with dirt over the top. But the way that I see it is the same way that I remember my grandfather's service. Now, each of our loved ones is a different individual who's lived a different life and have different passions, different hobbies. When my grandfather was laid to rest, inside of his casket was his Cubs hat. He had a toothpick in his pocket. He always had one of those little dental floss picks on him at all times. And right next to his right hand side, he was laid to rest with a tub of Cool Whip. Everyone knew my grandfather because he was 5'2" and 90 pounds soaking wet. But when it came time for dessert, he would always get his pumpkin pie and put just too much whipped cream. He'd go back, get more pumpkin pie to even it out. Well, then he'd run out of whipped cream, go back and get more. And this was his excuse to keep going back and forth and getting more pumpkin pie and more whipped cream. When it comes to the top of one of these burial vaults, I view it the same manner. It's one final beautiful send-off for our loved one who has passed away. For my grandfather's vault lid on his Citadel, we placed a farm scene with a John Deere tractor right in the middle. We put his portrait on the other side, and I brought sunflowers from my garden and placed on top of the lid as well. So not every decision with a committal service makes sense to everyone, but that's what we try to do with this company, is to provide any last possible touch, any fine detail that we can add to the committal service experience, making each burial vault and each service individual to that family and to that person who has passed. It's an honor and a privilege to work for the different funeral homes and all the families that we service across East Central Illinois and West Central Indiana. And I hope that in other areas of the U.S. that there are all men like me who take pride in their work and care about your family as well when you lose your loved one and need someone to work the graveside service. Take care and God bless. you.